Can you hear me now, everybody? Somebody thumbs up. I love all of my blank screens here. Let me know that you can hear me. Katie, thumbs up if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Chat. Oh, thumbs up. I see them. Awesome, you guys. Okay, Charlie's here with me today. We're going to do production. So some of you who are on my Zoom are going to be celebrated here, which will be fun. We'll do that. And then we've got all sorts of data for you. So I'm sure slides will be coming out afterwards. So we have good notes to take. But if you we're excited you're here, hang on. We'll get started in a minute.
Ready?
Oh, yeah, I'm for the content. You want to come and sit? Awesome. It is 12:02, which means it is time to start our team meeting. You can tell, like, gosh, I think August 17th took us out. Look, everybody's tired. We've got so many holes in like our where you guys are gonna have to carry the message. You are faithful here. And we're super excited that you're here because we're gonna celebrate you in a minute. I'm gonna let Charlie get started with his jam and then we're gonna roll into production. Good?
Great.
Great. All right.
Ready?
Ready?
Let's rock and roll. Here we go.
Here we go.
All right. So I'm jumping right into it. Couple updates for the group. A few weeks ago, I think I mentioned this may have been last week, we rolled out kwmkeoffers.com. Within 48 hours, we were legally shut down. Department of Justice inquiry into how brokers are consolidating compensation information cannot be publicly available. So we're pivoting. The pivot is we're still consolidating the information of the cooperative compensation and the listings that you're offering. The information and data will be internally only. What you do with the data is your own prerogative. You can read between the tea leaves there. We, as a brokerage, cannot consolidate compensation information and share it out and publicly broadcast it. Make sense? Just so you know, too, all brokers are in the same boat. Agents can do it on their websites, but brokerages can't. So it's not like an us thing, it's an industry thing. Yeah. Again, as we try to push the envelope of what we can do and what we can't do, we learn every day, and we'll just give you updates as we get them. Cool? Beautiful. Second thing, there's no team meeting next week, Tuesday. Monday's Labor Day. Tuesday, always post-holiday. We always give a chance to breathe a little bit. So there's no team meeting next week. Capiche? Love it. Sweet. All right. So lessons learned in the market of the moment. Last week, I had a conversation with the group around the last mile problem. And if you recall correctly, the last mile problem is this, and I'll use Amazon as an example. The cost of acquiring the said item is not the most expensive part of the transaction. Facilitating you purchasing the item on their app is not the most expensive part of the transaction. Facilitating the financial exchange of money is not the most expensive portion of the transaction. It's getting it from the warehouse to your house is the most expensive piece of acquisition from consumer to retailer. Now, utilizing a similar example in parallel, I'll utilize for our business. Our last mile problem is that we spend lots of money on marketing and leads. We spend lots of money on technology and CRM platforms. We spend money on AI and predictive analytics in order to score leads and the likelihood that they will buy and sell in the near future. And yet, the last mile problem in our business is the lack of a relationship, or to look at it differently, the ability to convert the lead is due to the relationship. And so when we think about our last mile problem, we have to understand that 72% of people only interview one agent, 92% of people interview up to 2 agents. If you are agents 3 through 12, you are irrelevant. And so the last mile problem we have in our business is, are we staying close enough to the relationships that we have within our database in order to identify when they might take action? Because most of the time, there isn't a second opportunity. 72% of the time, they interview one person. So as I shared last week, and I'm seeding this for a reason, because it'll lead into the economic updates, is Last week, I shared with you a seeker shopper study. And the seeker shopper study did 1,000 leads, both online and in person, across 30 states and a variety of different brokerages. And they found 35% of leads were never responded to, 47% of requests were never responded to by a human. It took 8 hours and 17 minutes. This is the average time for a human to respond. And 42% of agents never asked for contact information. 62% of people never had any follow-up within the secret shopper data. And so the last opportunity in our business is the most expensive opportunity in our business is, do you have and are you maintaining appropriate relationships with your database so that you can consult and you can convert? Because again, I will repeat, 72% of people only interview one agent, 92% of people will interview up to 2 agents. And so the challenge we have is we can put a ton of leads in our funnel and we can spend a lot of money at putting things at the top of the funnel, but the relationship still has to have happened in order to close the deal. Okay. So your opportunity, as I shared with you last week, is if someone calls, call them back. If someone texts or emails, write them back and build meaningful relationships. It's the fastest way to mitigate your risk during uncertain times. Point blank. Sometimes, and the reason I share this and why I led with it last week instead of doing the economic update is I think that as an industry, we've gotten really worked up about change and mechanisms of change, and we're not focusing on ultimately what's the most important success factor of you ultimately delivering on what it is that you expect to get out of this business, which is the relationships. And I've noticed it on social media and everywhere else that people have been communicating to their clients is they're not communicating their relationships, they're communicating their changes. The consumer doesn't care about the change. Remember that. The consumer does not care about the change. They do when they want to have a conversation with you in the moment, but on an everyday basis, if they're not taking action, they don't care about the change. If someone's happily in their home for the next 5 years, they don't care because in 5 years, they know they will come to you to ask you what the change was and how do we navigate it. So it's a good level set to remind you of where we are and what we need to do to pay attention to and how we move our business forward. With that is kind of the setup for the economic update as to what we'll get into, which I'll come back to in the end. Cool? Love it. Deej?
Yeah, so I'm gonna kick them off the stage here because all y'all, we're gonna be talking about production and awards and like amazing things that are happening. We're growing, right? So Betsy, Jeremy, Jay, and Kona joined our office last month. I know some of you have already reached out and said hello to these folks. If you haven't, do it now. I can't tell you how many agents come into my office or Tina's office or Michelle's office and say, I need somebody to help me do a showing, or I need somebody to take a buyer out today. These are your people. They're looking for opportunities, and they are raring to go. So say hi to them, get to know them, build relationships internally as well as with your clients, okay? Oh, and big congratulations. These are people who have recently signed contracts with teams. So we know that businesses build, individual businesses build, and then when you get to a certain point, you need leverage and then teams grow, right? So these folks have raised their hand to be on some of our great teams in the office. Congratulations to Nikki, Marcos, Val, and Nate. Super excited about that. Marcos also had his first closing, so that's awesome. And here had his first closing. That's awesome. And now we're into cappers. So congratulations to the Simplified Realty Group and Dan Bain. We've got a capper in the house, Dana Lassich, also a capper. That's awesome. Tanya Needs Wiki. Congratulations. Love that. Who else? Oh, Peter Promisberger. Peter P. Congratulations, Peter P. And Steph Sosa. So, you guys, this is indicative. You keep your head down, you do your work, you be consistent, you focus on that solving that last mile problem. These are people who consistently call people back. And I mean, maybe Peter, I don't know, but you know what I'm saying, right? Do the work and you get up on this board. Super excited. Okay, Recognition Home Run Club. Look at this list of people who had one listing, one contract, one closing, all in 1 month. Love this list, and it's because they did business and they're doing business and they're getting paid, right? So this is a gold standard. If you're not doing this regularly, this is the first list you want to be on, okay? Good, good. Congrats to everybody on this list. $1 Million Month in July. Jay Baumgartner, Gian Greco's, Dina, Dan, Krickebergs, Dana, Terry, Alfredo, Jeff, Katie, Sarah, Brad, Tina, Scott and Jeremy, Chris, Dawn and Zach, Steph, Jen Strelka, and Emily. $1 Million Month, you guys. It was a good month. There's business to be had. Go get the business. July 2024 top closed volume for individuals. Steph Sosa takes the lead at 2.6. Katie Ninkovic's the other $2 million producer in July at 2.1. Then Sarah Papp, Terry Lewis, Emily Walzak, Dina Lasich, and Dina and Dana. Round out the list for us. Congratulations, you guys. That's awesome. Teams. Closed volume for July, CGR at 3, Reliance Real Estate at 1.9, 1120 Real Estate 1.9, Callis Real Estate 1.7, Baumgartner Group at 1.7. Congratulations there. Our groups. Krickeberg Group coming in at 4.4. Woo! Lifetime Realty 2.9, Medina 2.8, Simplified 2.2, and Level Up at 2 million. Nice job. Individual top closed volume year to date 2024. Emily Walzak sits on top at 10 million, 10.1. Katie Ninkovic 9.4, Terry Lewis, Steph Sosa, Dana Lasich, Nicole Asaki, Sarah Pat Cotter, Peter, and Royce. Great job, everybody. Love seeing that. Okay, top close volumes for team year to date. Baumgartner Group coming in top there at 8.1, CGR at 5.9, Callis 5.8, Wisconsin Premier Realty Group 5.3, and Reliance at 4.2. Great job, you guys. Top close volume year to date group Lifetime 23.4. Wow, 23. Krickeberg Group 16, Mindright 14, Level Up 13, Medina at 13. Good job. All right, closed units. We say market controls your volume, you control your units. So Emily is at 30, Katie is 26.68, very specific number, Katie. Terry Lewis at 20.7, Steph 16, Dana, Nicole, Peter, and Sarah Papp rounding out our top individual closed units. Team, Callis Real Estate is at 20, Baumgartner Group also at 20. Interesting there. Pinnacle Group is at 18. Congratulations. Group, Lifetime Realty is at 64. Medina Real Estate's 52.5. Krickeberg is 46.75. Mindright is 49.92. And Level Up is at 41. Congratulations, you guys. Great work. Great work, great work. And as always, thank you to Michelle for all of the work that she's done to put that production together. If you have a question, talk to me. And I love that all the success that y'all are having. And this is the one who's going to keep us out of trouble while we're doing all of the work that we're doing. So, done.
Yes.
Compliant.
Woo! My words got cut off. I don't know how. I was typing before this. So actually maybe this is it's good. We've updated this. This is live updates for you guys. We actually, these issues have been taken care of. So that's where it's like, wait a second, it's different. So we were having a known issue where text was disappearing when forms were being sent for e-signature. As of yesterday afternoon, ZipForms has that taken care of. The thing to know though is if you're working in a folder that you already have active, best thing to do is just going to be start a new folder. Like start fresh, put new documents in, like clean slate, a new transaction in ZipForms. Yep.
Not just a new folder within.
New transaction completely in ZipForms, just to like make sure that we're not carrying over anything that shouldn't be carried over. The other thing that we were seeing is that on the Wrecker, all of the radio buttons were showing up as mandatory. So if you were sending that out from ZipForms, they were every yes, no, and NA, and each line was mandatory. That's also been corrected. If you are still seeing that as an issue, which it shouldn't be now, but if you have a transaction that was already happening, just delete that file and put it back in. So those both have been taken care of. And just a reminder for you guys that these were zip forms issues, not KW issues. So if you ever have issues, like, let us know so we can see if this is a company-wide thing going on. But just know that, we've been in touch with zip forms the whole time for that. Other things. So with the new normal, we're kind of like playing in a new space and kind of seeing some things that are coming up with the changes to how compensation and concessions and everything is being handled. We had a question come into the compliance line this week about the escalation clause, and we did get an answer from the WRA. So this is worth sharing because this is going to come up as you guys are practicing real estate. So you have an escalation clause. In the addendum AC escalation clause, it references the net price for a seller. So the question is, does the net price would we be taking the price, subtracting any concessions or compensation that's being paid by the seller given to the buyer? And the answer from the WRA is that seller payment of the buyer's firm's fee would be considered monetary contributions by the seller. So that will adjust potentially your net price on an escalation clause. The other thing to know, we've had a couple people ask, what happens if I am offering concessions, or my client is offering concessions, but then someone approaches me and would like to write an offer as a customer. Well, I can't use those concessions to be paid for working with that customer buyer. So what we're seeing people do is writing a clause that adjusts the total commission if you, as the listing agent, write an offer for a buyer customer. So that's something to consider as well, as we're seeing this go through. If your client is going to be offering concessions to a buyer. Yes? Yes? Tony's listening actively.
Yeah.
So if your seller client is offering concessions, you can't, as a listing agent, if a buyer says, hey, write this offer for me, I can't be paid because it's not a client. And
Correct, yeah.
I can't write that into an offer. I can't put my interests ahead of the seller's interests.
Okay.
And so you may want to consider writing a clause into your listing contract
Uh-huh.
that changes the total commission if you bring a buyer customer.
Got it.
So if you have questions about this.
If you are representing both though, let's say you have like
Mhm.
dual representation without designated agency.
Mhm. As long as we can chat about that.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Good
Because
question.
then you could
Yes.
actually, you could pay you can get paid for the cooperative compensation.
Correct. You can always get paid for cooperative compensation.
You're just talking about specifically.
Concessions. Yes. Yes. I'll put
Without-
something out there. Yes. Awesome. The other questions that we've had have been about the pre-agency showing agreements. That only needs to be signed once, and you can show as many homes as possible. And then one of the other questions is, what if I had another agent show a house for me now? I'm out of town, somebody's helping me out. The wording in that form does say that it covers other agents who are helping you with showings from our firm. So you don't have to have each agent signing that as well. Good? Okay. And then a couple reminders, MLS is asking that we're keeping all marketing off of documents in MLS. So remove logos from your seller updates sheets, offer instructions, anything else in MLS. And then just a reminder, I've still had some people asking about compensation disclosure form. Remember that holdover form between the old forms and the new forms, that new form that people signing the old form had to sign. They are necessary. So if you signed an old form with somebody, you do need to have that form filled out by your customers. It doesn't matter when it closes, have them sign. So. And there's our, yay, it's fixed. So it's fixed.
Awesome, Dawn.
Hey, Dawn.
You guys. Yeah, extra special clapping for all of our compliance people. I hear that hotlines were very, very busy in the past couple of weeks. So if they sound a little tired, they're a little tired, but thank you for all the work that you're doing. We already talked about Keller Williams Milwaukee, KWMKEoffers.com. Just a reminder, that's internal for us because we can't aggregate and send it out. That comes on the email that Willis sends through for upcoming listings that you have. So go ahead and put information in there. And that's how that gets fed. And we're going to roll into training and education. Oh, So we have one week left of August. We're in the last week of August. Is that correct? The last week of August. You guys, tomorrow, Phil Jones is going to be diving into this classroom right here. We have a link that is being facilitated by Chris Rutzkwitz. She's part of that organization now, and she's made it possible for us to join his Exactly What to Say training tomorrow at noon. So we hope you join us tomorrow for that. We have some very powerful scripts for us to help convert business. Just a reminder then, next Monday is Labor Day and the offices will be closed. Your key fobs obviously work. We will not be here. And then it is September. It is September. So what do you got for it? Oh, football. Oh,
Sorry, that's not on the schedule.
well,
Yeah, we have a lot of great things coming up in September. The new normal conversation. So after Labor Day, we're going to continue it that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week. And then for the rest of September, we're going to move to just Mondays and Thursdays and continue those conversations for the rest of the month. I think we're getting to a point where it's starting to feel a little bit like we're getting into the rhythm of things now. So hopefully we're providing a lot of value and more exciting conversations on the 8:30s to come. So also, Jeff is continuing his live script practicing on Mondays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. And this really is more of a broad range. It doesn't just focus on the settlement. He's really coming to you with all the scripts to navigate just your business in general. So I highly recommend plugging into that via Zoom so you can really hear what he's saying and you get to throw the objections at him, which is great, right? So bring your objections and he'll come script with you. And then this is again another plug for our noon tomorrow with Phil Jones here in the office, and Chris will be hosting a little bit of a mastermind Q&A after the presentation with Phil. Okay, and now we get to go into fall events, which are super exciting, right? So Thursday at 1 o'clock here at the office, we're going to start a planning committee for Trunk or Treat that we'll be hosting here in the office in October. If you partook in Trunk or Treat last year, it's going to be relatively the same format. So if you'd like to be a part of the planning committee for that, please join us Thursday at 1, and then we'll kind of go from there on getting the details out to everybody. Okay. And then, is it our favorite day of the year? Okay, everybody get out your phones and please scan the QR code if you're a team admin or a single agent that would like to partake in Pi Day here at the office. The registrations are now open, so I'm collecting your information that I can then, or we can then create the registrations that you can to your database. All right. So Pi Day is Saturday, 23rd.
it's so weird to be talking about this when you can barely read outside. Humid, but fall really is right around.
Any questions on Pi Day?
Thanks. Good? Oh, we are not. All right, well, yesterday I got asked to, what if my clients live a long way away? Think about how you would use those events.
All right, so I do have one challenge for the group. Okay. And I've been surprised at something is, you know, what's interesting about the Pi Day? Guess who utilizes the Pi Day the most? Teams in the top 20%. And here's the thing with Pi Day. It's designed to help you leverage economies of scale in order for you to do an event without having to do all the work. So why wouldn't everyone be participating is interesting when it's designed to help you alleviate any sort of stress from a planning perspective. Great way to do it. Just a thought, as I've noticed, had some observations the last 2 years. All right, you ready for the Mega Camp macroeconomic insights? Here's what I did. Everything in yellow are my notes. Okay. And what I tried to do is break it down in layman's terms to help you understand what you're looking at and or what you're hearing. Cool? Also, at 1 o'clock, all of these are dropping on the Facebook group, as well as they're in the KW Realty MKE website under team meeting resources and guides, because there are some things in here that I would imagine you would want to utilize in some seller presentations and buyer consultations. Cool? All right, so first up, first few thoughts, and just so you know, the thoughts in yellow is what I interpreted from what I heard on stage. First, this was what they said. School is never truly out for a true professional. School is never truly out for a true professional, because true professionals are always learning how to adapt and learning how to change their business based on the market of the moment. Second, discipline is the ability to get what you want when you want it. You can't get what you want when you want it without discipline. So being disciplined in your approach and disciplined in how you navigate your business is vitally important. So let's take a look at the U.S. economy. Then we'll go into the U.S. housing economy, and then we'll wrap it up with 3 scenarios that are likely. 3 scenarios, one of which is likely to play out. Cool? First, GDP is the gross domestic product. This is what people are spending on goods and services, and this is what the government looks at in terms of determining the health of our economy. Okay? Couple things to note. The goal is always to have a 2% growth in GDP. 2.5%, which we've had for the last 2 years, is incredibly strong. Anything above 3 is spending way too much, which forces prices up. It's inflation. So what we dealt with of the yo-yo effect of where we were in 21 is people were spending a ton of goods and services, which then forced companies to hire more labor. And because they had to hire more labor, they had to pay them more in order to attract talent. And because they had to pay them more, they had to charge you more. And so it's this domino effect of when the economy is an inferno, everything becomes more expensive. The reason the economy was an inferno in 2021 was because the government was basically a printing press of money, and they flooded the market with money in 2020. And then all of a sudden, with how quickly the recovery from COVID occurred, people started spending that money, and we saw the impacts of that in 21. 22, they recognized that they were going to have a problem on their hands with how much spending was occurring, so they had to really dial it back quickly, which is why you saw 1.9% growth, which again, the target is 2, so it wasn't like they were off. And then we saw 2.5% in 23 and 24. Now, this is an interesting slide, okay? What you see is the orange lines is the New York Federal Reserve recession probability, and the gray boxes highlighted within the graph is when a recession occurred based on moments of time. So what you'll notice is the recession probability was the highest in the 70s, and guess what? A recession occurred. A recession probability was high and a recession occurred. You can see so on and so forth where this occurred in moments of time. And guess what? Recession probability through the New York Federal Reserve probability is at its highest. We are entering into a recession. I'll talk more about how we know that. And the reason why we know that is because housing is always the leading indicator of where the recession is going. Okay? But it's not all doom and gloom. You have to understand that just because the word recession is not an offensive term. It's just understanding what it means. It's the highest probability we've seen since the 80s, and we need a recession in order to have another boom. The commentary was, so what? Remember, a true professional is always in school. So we have to have a recession in order to have a boom. When you look at the GDP on a quarterly basis, a recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. The problem is you'll be in a recession for 6 months before they officially acknowledge it. So don't get it twisted. Housing has been in a recession. We've felt it, have we not, for the last 18 months? Housing always leads into a macroeconomic recession, okay? We've been feeling it for 18 months. It's a precursor for what's to come. Again, it's not scary, and it helps you understand as the precursors of some of the scenarios that can play out. Unemployment's an important factor. Why? Because people need to have jobs in order to pay for where they want to live. Anything below 4% is gainfully unemployed. So going back to 1990, you can see where the ebbs and flows of unemployment showed up, and you can see when it spikes And then when it falls back down, the last 2 years, we've been at 3.6% unemployment, which is basically a gainfully employed economy. However, when you break it down over the last several years on a month by month basis, we've started to see that unemployment has started to rise since the summer of 2023, specifically since July of 23, where it was at a 3.5% unemployment rate. And through July of this year, it's at a 4.3%. The challenge that we have in some of the uncertainty that we face as it relates to what's the impact of the recession is the most recent recession we had was in 2020, and it was a spike and then it was a drop. And what we don't know is the upward trend indicative of a future recession, or are we returning to a new normal because we've been in such low rates of unemployment and such high rates of companies that are hiring. So what this is taking a look at is unemployment as it relates to job openings. And what you see on the orange line is job openings in the millions, going back to January of 2001. And then looking at the number of unemployed people in the millions. And unemployed people, just so you understand from a definition standpoint, is defined as people who are currently out of work, who are actively seeking work. That does not define all people who are out of work. You have to actively be seeking a job. So what you see here was in January of 21, 22, and into 23, we had this big delta where in the US labor force, everyone was trying to hire, and yet there was very low unemployment, which caused inflation. Everything started to go up because people had to pay more for labor in order to attract them in order to make more widgets because we were buying so many widgets. Make sense? So where we're entering into, and so what happened was the economy was an inferno and inflation skyrocketed. Where we're about to enter into is an interesting inflection point, which is why it's a precursor to a recession, is the fact that labor has cooled, the labor market has cooled off and the unemployment numbers have started to rise. Okay. And when you see that inflection point, right, where you have too many people unemployed and too few people offering jobs, you enter into a recession. Okay. It's important to just understand what causes some of these things. It's the cause and effect aspect, right? So let's take a look at inflation. Inflation is basically the cost of the items you purchase. Do I have a job? Do I have money? And what am I paying for those things? We can see the policies that have been put in place by the Federal Reserve have really helped curtail inflation. The hard part about inflation or our economy, just for perspective's sake, is what goes up must come down and what goes down must come up. It's never a homeostasis situation. And so when things are out of control, they have to make levers in order to slow it down. And then they slow it down and they got to a point where they're like, oh shit, we slowed it down too much. Now we got to heat it back up again, right? So that's kind of where we are with it relates to inflation. Inflation with items that are falling in prices, you can see here, smartphone, used cars. This used to be the opposite about 18 months ago, if you remember. Used cars were going for insane prices. Airfare has gone down, furniture and bedding, health insurance, so on and so forth. Items with the fastest rising prices, interestingly enough, outside of motor vehicle insurance and healthcare, most of the rest of it is discretionary spending. If you look at it, admission to sporting events, photographic equipment, admissions to sports and entertainment, most of it, some of the highest driving things is discretionary income. People have done well. So what are they doing? They're buying more. Think of the last time you went to a concert today versus a concert you went to 5 years ago. Just think about the Taylor Swift impact. Okay. More people want to go. They have the discretionary income. You want to go see Taylor Swift in Indianapolis. It costs you $1,500 a ticket. That was unheard of 5 years ago, right? And so it's understanding where discretionary income goes to help understand how inflation has an impact. So those were some big picture things as it relates to our economy, what's going on within our industry. A couple things. On an annualized basis, what you see is on the bar graphs is annualized production based on transactional units. Last year, we had 4.1 million transactional units. Okay. For perspective, the purple dotted line is where 2023 finished. So you can see respective to other years where it finished. Interestingly to note, in 2008, there were 4.1 transactional units. Okay. Again, housing is always the leading indicator to a recession. Then what happened in 08, post 08? It went 4.3, 4.2, 4.3, 4.7, and then started to build back up again. Where do you think we're going? We'll probably sit in the 4 million transactional units for a little while. The economy will likely go into a recession, and then they will pull a few levers and then they will start. Housing will be the first thing that will rebound. Remember, we're the first thing to go into a recession, and then we're the first thing that comes out of a recession. You have to remember understanding cause and effect. So where it's interesting though, is when you look at it on an annualized projected basis in June, because June was so slow, they revised the projection down to 3.8 million units. And if you remember in December and January, I gave you a prediction that basically said, look, if we're sitting here at the end of 2024 and we're flat, we should be happy. If we're up single digits, we should be ecstatic. If we go backwards, we should be concerned. June, we went backwards a little bit in terms of where we believe that we'll project it out at the end of the year. However, I will tell you, July came back stronger than what June was, so it could be an anomaly, and August is trending in a very positive direction as well. Point being is it's still somewhat of a mixed bag, but if you look back to the historical, we're probably going to be sitting here in about 4 to 4.5 million transactional units for the next 2 to 3 years. Just know that, okay? Now, the challenge is we're no longer keeping pace. Unless something changes, we're sliding backwards. The course correction is major rate changes in Q4, which we've already started to see. Now, home prices, this is important for your listing, for your sellers. Expected appreciation in 2024 is still going to be around 7%. Our historical average, which is this light blue line, is the trend line of 4% appreciation. You can see since 2021, we far surpassed, and you probably all have felt this, far surpassed historical averages of 4% appreciation. So this year we're expecting 7%. Okay. That plays into part around affordability. Okay. And so when we look at it of how, when you combo inventory with the appreciation gains, a few things to note. Since 1980 to 2018, we only had 4 months below 4 months of supply of inventory. Okay, so over a 30-year period, there was only 4 months that were below 4 months of supply of inventory. Since 2018, we've only averaged 3 months of supply. What we're uncertain to is this the new normal in terms of continued demand pressures and not seeing an alleviation of inventory issues? We don't know. Okay, because we haven't seen this huge influx of inventory like we were expecting when the market would dramatically slow down. Let's jump over to rates. Rates on an annualized basis, perspective is important, even though people don't want to hear it. Okay, and again, I would just say that this is probably the one slide I would add to my buyer consultation, and I'll help you understand what this is. The mortgage rates are the blue lines. The historical averages from 1972 to 2023 is the blue dotted line, and that historical average over a 40-year period is 7.7%. Now, if you take out the anomaly of the 1980s and you look at the historical average from 1990 to 2023, the historical average there is 5.98% over a 30-year average. Okay. We sit today around 6.5 to 6.7%. We're right within the realm of historically rates where rates have always been for a 30 to 40-year period. Okay. That's really important to level set buyers' expectations around affordability of rates. When you look at it, rates are down 70 basis points from last year. You can see this on a monthly basis in the course correction, and this is even improved since this slide was created. And when you look at it from an affordability standpoint, again, important to understand in your buyer consultation is affordability concerns. Yes, we are in one of the most expensive times to buy a home, but it has been more expensive. Again, perspective is important. When you look at it as principal and interest as a percentage of your income, in the 1980s, it was 49%. So 49% of your income went to the principal and interest payment of your home. In 2006, 32% of your principal and interest went to the principal and interest of your home. Today, we sit around 35%. Okay. And so people are probably saying, oh my gosh, affordability, affordability, affordability. Here's what they have to keep into perspective. Home prices always go up over time. Okay, it's always a great time to buy, knowing that the average consumer holds for a period of 5 to 9 years. Time in the market beats timing the market. Every 5 to 9 years, the market always corrects itself. Okay, because the values always appreciate over time. And here's your kind of bullet in the chamber, as I would say, in terms of when you're having consultations and people have affordability concerns. Yes, you might buy at the top of the moment, but you will never buy at the top of the market because the market always rises. It's important to remember and to remind our clients. You might buy at the top of the moment, but never at the top of the market because the market always rises. That is historically a fact. Okay. Now let's look at, now I'm going to jump into looking at two things as it relates to the impacts on agents. One, sides per agent. When you look at it historically, agents averaged 10 sides per agent within the industry. Last year, we were at 5.6 sides per agent. It's roughly a 40% decrease over the historical average. The commentary here is, look, if you're still in the industry and you weren't one of the couple 100,000 that got out of the industry in the last 12 months, it's because you learned how to understood how to survive and advance. Because you're not in it to build a great year, you're in it to build a great career. And the resiliency that you have during moments of this is when the market comes back, you'll be able to take advantage of because housing always leads a recovery. Okay. Now, the other side of that sword, being a double-edged sword, is when you look at it from a volume per agent. Okay. And in 2024, we are on pace to have the third best in the history of the market in terms of close volume per agent. Why? Because of the appreciation gains. And so we have to get into better focusing, and which is why Deej repeats it and why I repeat it, and how we talk about units. If you control the aspect of the relationship and what we talk about in the last mile problem, the volume will follow because the transactional volume is so much significantly bigger. But if you lose out on a unit and you're not feeling the pain because your average sale price has gone up, you might not feel it in the moment in your income, but you will over time, because every unit you lose, you will lose the opportunity to continue to build your wealth and your opportunity in this business. So focus on your units and the volume will come. How do we know that? In a market that was down effectively 28 to 30% last year, it was the third best in history in terms of volume per agent closed. Focus on your units, focus on your units, focus on your units. Your volume will come. So where's the opportunity in all of this? In the mortgage universe, 76% of mortgages have rates of 5% of less. And you're like, yeah, I know that. It's a real sloth to get people to come to the list. Well, where's the opportunity? 38% of homeowners in the US today own their homes outright. 38% of homeowners in the US have more than 50% equity in their homes. And 24% have less than 50% equity. So 76% of homeowners have at least 50% equity in their homes. That equity can be a huge mitigating factor in terms of their affordability, despite the fact that rates have gone up. How do you basically push capital into your next asset in order to purchase your next asset? Is a huge opportunity in helping understand where you will find listings. Okay. And strategizing with your clients on what their financial balance sheet looks like and how do you help them take advantage of maximizing what their balance sheet looks like in order for them to help create positive outcomes for them and their families financially. If you understand that and you can understand how to articulate your value in that way, you will win more clients, I guarantee you, because people are looking and seeking for advice as to how to build their wealth. It's understanding what their equity is and how you make a play on it in order to make more money go to work for you. So what are the three scenarios that could come knowing the macroeconomic conditions, what's going on in the housing inventory? Scenario one, there's no recession. We're just going to kind of slug through where we are with unemployment below 5%, rates hovering around 6-ish%, and transactional home sales being around 4.5 million. That's a real scenario that we just are kind of hovering in this state of where we are. This scenario will be defined by a resilient labor market, which allows rates to be decreased before a recession sets in. The decline in rates will result in more home sales, but the recovery will be slow in housing as rates take time to come down. Basically saying we're heading into a recession. We're not there yet. They're not pushing any alarm bells, and we're just going to continue with where we are until something happens. That's scenario one. Scenario two is we hit a normal recession. Unemployment, how I mentioned, continued to rise on a monthly basis, rises into levels of 6 to 8%. Interest rates will fall rapidly, going to 5 to 6%, which you would likely see in the third or fourth quarter of this year. And all of a sudden, it's a boom on the demand side because people will get off the couch and actually transact real estate, and we'll actually see an increase in transactional units up to 5 million. Okay. And what happens is historically falling home sales lead us into recessions, and rising sales lead us out. After 3 years of declines, the transition into a recession would trigger a more aggressive drop in rates from the Federal Reserve and stimulate the housing market to drive growth of an economic recovery. That's a very highly likely scenario, scenario one and scenario two. Okay. We're either going to continue it where we are and we're just going to have to sloth through it, or we're going to get into a macro recession and the Fed will start pulling levers in order to help get us out of it. And again, housing is always the first thing to come out of it because housing is what stimulates the economy. Scenario three is the least likely scenario, but it's something that you have to prep for. And it's a banking recession. Here, unemployment spikes to 10%, interest rates fall to 3 to 4%, and home sales go to 4 million or less. Okay. In this scenario, something damages the banking system, creating a shock to lending. Home prices and home sales will fall despite low mortgage rates. This happened in the Great Recession and savings and loans crisis. Okay. Where you can see, if you aren't totally paying attention, here's what you need to know. If you start to see rates going below 5%, you're going to want to start paying attention to what's going on. If rates hover anywhere between 5 to 7%, it will give you an indication as to what's going on in the macro economy. But rates going below 5% is an absolute reactive measure because of strong concerns. Okay. I think my personal opinion, I think scenario one or scenario two are the most likely. We're likely going to, if scenario one plays out in the third and fourth quarter, scenario two is the next thing that will show up. Okay. And so the advice is you need to have meaningful dialogue with clients on where rates need to be in order to make them jump. You need to maintain close relationships so you have a pulse on their situation. Otherwise, someone else will. Remember, 72% interview one agent. If you don't have a pulse on your client's situation, on what it is that would make them, that would want them to create action, you will have lost. So the reason why I led with the last mile problem in advance of this discussion was level setting around the current environment of where everybody's freaking out about and getting people focused back on what actually helps them transact their real estate. Make sense? Sweet. So, two more things to leave you with. One is the data and one is more of a motivational piece to help you reset your minds. In terms of method of home purchase, here's where I would tell you, you should feel very good about what you do in surviving the last 2 years. 89% of all transactions in 2023 hired a real estate professional to help them transact. Okay. It was the highest it's been in 40 plus years. What the market is telling you is transactions are getting more complex, not less, and people are showing you they value you, the services you provide. The data tells us that. Now, with all of the talks of a recession, all the talks of like changes in the industry, all the talks around compensation and concessions and how do we navigate it and what are the contracts and what do we do? Here's what I would share with you. Anybody read the book Extreme Ownership? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, Extreme Ownership. I'll give you the basic synopsis of the book. It's 2 Navy SEAL team leaders, Jocko Willink and Leif Babbitt. Those are the authors of the book. They talked about their time in navigating their Navy SEAL teams, SEAL Team 6 and SEAL Team 8, through the wars in Afghanistan during really, really shitty conditions, to be point blank. And what they talked about is how they kept their teams alive during real uncertain times, and the leadership lessons they had during the war in the Middle East of leading Navy SEAL teams, like what I would consider to be the most elite warriors. And so there was a short little clip that someone shared with me recently when all of this was going on. Lawsuits and commission changes and contract changes, and oh my gosh, the sky is falling. And they sent this to me, and I was like, good. So here it is.
One of my direct subordinates, one of my guys that worked for me, he would call me up or pull me aside with some major problem, some issue that was going on. And he'd say, boss, we got this and that and the other thing. And I'd look at him and I'd say, good. And finally, one day he was telling me about some issue that he was having, some problem. And he said, I already know what you're going to say. And I said, well, what am I going to say? He said, you're going to say good. He said, that's what you always say. When something is wrong and going bad, you always just look at me and say good. And I said, well, yeah. When things are going bad, there's going to be some good that's going to come from it. Didn't get the new high-speed gear we wanted? Good. Didn't get promoted? Good. More time to get better. Oh, mission got canceled? Good. We can focus on another one. Didn't get funded. Didn't get the job you wanted. Got injured. Sprained my ankle. Got tapped out? Good. Got beat? Good. You learned. Unexpected problems? Good. We have the opportunity to figure out a solution. That's it. When things are going bad, don't get all bummed out, don't get startled, don't get frustrated. If you can say the word good, guess what? It means you're still alive. It means you're still breathing. And if you're still breathing, well then hell, you still got some fight left in you. So get up, dust off, reload, recalibrate, re-engage, and go out on the attack.
So there you go. There's the message I would leave you with. Everything happens for a reason. Take advantage of the moments in your mark. Extreme Ownership. It's a great book. With that, guys, it's a beautiful day in Milwaukee. Thanks for showing up. Slides will be available to the group if you need them. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Deej.
Quick invitation from the Cricket Birds. I believe they're having a packet party soon. Yeah, slides. There's a slide.
Heading there.
One of my
There we go.
Friday the 6th, 6 p.m. So if you can say good on your way to Cricket Birds and watch the football game, right?
Jay, Lisa, anything to share about the party?
4 TVs, the patio, the pool, the garage, and the party hall. And we'll do,
And new stories. Will be sign the Cricketburg waivers. All right. Thank you, Jay, for opening your house. You guys, anything to talk about? Just listed. What's coming? Oh, it just started raining.
Good.
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 Good. Next up, let's do listing.
Yeah,
All right. All right.
so our listing in Brown Deer went back on the market, so if anybody missed it, it is fully renovated, beautiful upgrade. Right on the, pretty close to the border of Nequan, so you can do school choice, it's in a beautiful subdivision, super quiet. Check it out. It's very nice. 8628 North 53rd.
All right.
Price point? Price point is $379. 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. One car garage, about 0.3 acres, very nice size lot, big lot. All new lights. You can see the update list under the MLS.
Nice. All right. What else do you have, Jay?
I have a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath ranch, needs work in the Berlin. And Eisenhower School District, nice lot. Only been there 40, 50 years, she passed away. They'll be live by Thursday.
Sorry, Chris.
3/24.
Tony.
Tony Jean Greco, Monterey Realty Group. All right, so. On the market right now, we've got a new Berlin listing just launched and, seller is entertaining fair and reasonable offers. It is a 3-bed, 1.5 bath, 1,700 square foot colonial on South 124th Street, address 1941. This is on the MLS, listed at $399,900. We have in 2 weeks, a 3 full bath, 4-car garage, ranch in Pewaukee on 1.5 acres. That is gonna be listed to be determined probably somewhere close to $550,000. We also have a downtown condo on West Reservoir Ave. We'll be listing this one around $420-ish, and this is a 2-bed, 2 full bath, 2,400 square foot condo with a 2-car attached garage. And then West Dallas, 4-bed, 1 full bath, 1,800 square feet, no garage, but it has the parking slab. This one's gonna be around $240. And all of those are off market. Sellers are willing to entertain off market offers if the price is right and condition is favorable.
Thank you, Tony. Find right
Yeah,
really.
in Berlin, guys.
What are you talking about?
No more listings.
We're gonna have that conversation. What else? What else? What else we got?
Nash Park possibly will come soon, 3 bedroom, 1 bath.
All right. Awesome. Not New Berlin.
Not Berlin, Scott.
Good. Got that.
Coming soon, 3-bedroom, 2 bath in West Dallas, off of 9th Street, I believe. Yeah, coming soon in about 2 weeks.
Approximate price point?
Between 280 and 3.
So
1.5.
290.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. All right. Before I let you go, after Krickeberg's party and before all those houses get sold, you have a mini golf thing coming.
That's on the 18th.
18.
I'll
Okay,
put up some signs so people can check, register for that.
awesome. All right. Well, work hard, play hard, you guys. You are released to the wild. Let's go get more listings so we can talk about them 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks. Have a great Labor Day.
Oh, that's,